How you doing, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, my name is Mo, and today we are finally going to be installing some coilovers and shocks on the Sequoia. Also, we're going to be installing some front extended sway bar end links from Suspension Max, and this should be a plug and play system. We don't have to do any modifications or anything like that. So you don't see rear springs. The reason is we are gonna keep the factory airbags. I have a 07 and it comes with factory airbags. I can't justify taking them out, especially when they are working perfectly. So we're just gonna change the shock. And then the front coilover should give us about 2 inches of lift, and that should be good enough for the front bumper. And also the rear, we have 0 to 1 inch because we already have a rake. I did not want to go any longer than that. Also, if we do need to lift the rear up a little bit, because we have the height adjustment, so we just could adjust it and trick the computer to set the system at a higher level. So it's not a big deal. Eventually now I will go with a 2.5 reservoir setup. It's a simple swap because these are serviceable now. Every 30 to 50,000 you do have to take them out and you do have to service them. Not a lot of people know this, but these have to be serviced. So just keep in mind when you buy any kind of performance shock, whether it's Icon, Fox, Kings, they do have to be serviced. Now, not a lot of people service them, that's fine, but that's something that you have to keep in mind if you want to buy any of these performance shocks. Now, these are plug and play. They come out of the box with the spring and top hats and everything assembled, so you don't have to do any assembly. You just take them out of the box and put them in the truck. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get the truck jacked up and start installing the front shocks. All right, so the first step after we go ahead and jack up the truck is take this sway bar end link off. So that bolt down there at the bottom is going to be a 17, and the one I have is a 15. Now, some of you might have aftermarket ones or different ones that are gonna have different sizes. I think this one is aftermarket. I'm not really sure if this is the OEM one, but for mine, the bottom one is 17 and the top one is a 15. So we're gonna zip those off and then move on to the next step. All right, so we got the sway bar end links off the sway bar and the control arm. So now it's time to take these 3 bolts. Do not take the center bolt over here. You'll just die. It's that simple. I'm not gonna even, go in detail. You're just gonna die. No, but these 3, there's front one, side one, and then there's one in the back, and those are 14 millimeters. And also the shock wall, after you take the top ones off, these are gonna be 19. So you just zip this one off with a impact, comes off, and then these you'd have to get a wrench or a breaker bar and get them loose and take the shock out. And it's that simple. Once we take this off, then we are ready to install the new shocks. So let's go ahead and take these off, take the shock out, and go to the next step to install the shocks. All right, so we got the shock out. All this is like fairly simple, to be honest with you. Now, where you're gonna have problems maybe when you install them, just because the shock is gonna be a little bit longer. But here's the old shock compared to the new shock. As you can tell, I don't know if you could see it, but it's all cracked and just the bushing is done. I mean, my truck is gonna ride so much better because all this old suspension is going out and we're putting new suspension. But yeah, this is it compared to the new shock. As you can tell, it's a little bit taller, so it'll give us that 2 inch that we need. But I cannot wait to get these installed because they do look good, and I think it will complete the whole kit and just gives everything a nice complement with the uppers and lowers and new suspension. So yeah, let's just go ahead and put the new shocks in and then install the sway bar end links, and that should be it for the front shocks. Then we're gonna move to the rear shocks. All right, so the shock is finally in, and good God, it looks beautiful, especially with the upper control arm and then the Solo Motorsport lower control arms. But this bottom bolt, we're gonna torque it to 100 foot-pounds, and then the 3 top ones are gonna be torqued to 47 foot-pounds. And then once we do that, it's time to install our extended sway bar end links. Let's go ahead and torque these and then install the sway bar end links. All right, so these are the sway bar end link. There's our suspension mac. Now this bolt is gonna be a 19 and that one's gonna be a 14. They're fairly easy to install. I don't know if you ever guys installed sway bar end links, but what we're gonna do is take this bolt off, take this one out, and then insert it here. So this will be split in half, and then this bolt will go through, and we're just gonna tighten it up. It's fairly simple. It's not hard at all. So let's go ahead and get into it. All right, everyone. So finally got the full front suspension done. We got the shocks, lower control arms, upper control arms, and the sway bar and links from Suspension Max. Now let's go ahead and do the other side and then move to the back of the truck and install the shocks in the back. All right, so we're at the rear of the truck and now it's time to take the rear shocks off. Before we take the rear shocks, we have to do a couple things. Now the nut, I don't know if you can see it, it's in between here, so we're gonna have to go under and reach for it. But before that, if you try to take it off, this part is gonna spin. So what we're gonna do is use this special tool, and I promise you this tool is probably the best tool ever invested in. This is a locking chain clamp. So what basically it is, it's just like a locking clamp but has a chain, so you can have a bunch of different sizes, and it's like only 16 bucks, so it's pretty cheap, but it does wonders. What we're gonna do is use it and tighten that bike chain around here, and then pry, like basically pry on here, and then crank on the nut up top and take it loose. Now you do need a ratcheting 17 for the factory one, and for the Fox is going to be a 19, so we have a ratcheting 19 too. So let me go ahead and set it up and show y'all how the full setup would look like. As you can see, I locked the locking chain on, and then it's on the sway bar, so can't go anywhere. And I'll show y'all how to crank on it with the ratchet and wrench. Now you have to get in from behind, and again we have the airbags here, so you just grab it and pull it your way and it should loosen up. Now it's gonna be hard, it's gonna be wear your arms out, but this is the only way to get it. I don't know any other way to get the shock off. But once you get the top one off, then we have another bolt. We got the 17 millimeter here that we unscrew once we get the top one off. Do not take this one off yet until you get the top nut off, just because it will spin and it will just dangle around. So right here is holding it, and once that top one is off, then we can unscrew this and replace the shock. All right, so this is the new shock compared to the old shock. Now don't worry, the new shock is compressed, so it's not shorter, it's actually longer. It's just had to be compressed. Now once we install it, we're gonna have these bushings. Now these bushings and orientation is gonna be like this. So we get one concave, it's gonna be like this, and then the small side is gonna go in, and the big side will go in where the frame of the truck is, so it seats in. And same thing with up top, so it's gonna be like this. There's not gonna be any other bushings in the middle of them, which is kind of weird, but this is how it's gonna be for these Fox shocks. And then of course your nut is a 19 mil on the Fox shocks, and it's a nut lock. So yeah, let's go ahead and install these, and I'll show y'all. First we're gonna have to put this one in and maneuver it where we get ready to cut that strap off, and then put the bushings in and let it guide itself to the hole. And then we just put the top bushings and nut, and it should be it for the rear shocks. So let me go ahead and put those in, and I'll show y'all how it is once everything is on the ground and level. All right, so we got the shock on. Now you got to torque this one to 98 foot-pounds, and up top just get it as tight as you can, as you can see right here. But man, look at this, it's absolutely beautiful. Yeah, I cannot wait to see how they ride and feel. Now we have the airbags, so once it settles down, I'll leave it for a week after it gets aligned and everything. And once it settles, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna see if the height is the same, and if it is, I'm gonna leave it. If it's not, then I'll show y'all how to adjust the ride height control to match the front. Again, we only went 2 inches up front, and then this is 0 to 1 inch in the rear, so we don't need that much in the rear because it was already high. But yeah, if we need to change anything, we can adjust it through the ride height sensor. We'll see, and I'll let y'all know. So let me go ahead and finish up the other side and let it down and show y'all, give y'all a walk around with the truck. All right, so the Sequoia is finally lifted. We finally got all the suspension done except for the rear trailing arms. But as you can see, we got the Fox shocks, Camberg upper control arms, and then we got Solo Motorsports lower control arms, and the suspension max sway bar end links. It looks absolutely amazing. Now, one thing that I'm kind of worried about is the rear. So I have a lean a little bit, and we're gonna have to adjust the ride height control in the rear. If I had springs, it would be easier, but I have the airbags, and I did not want to change them out to springs because I do tow more than I off-road. So we're gonna go ahead and adjust that after we install the front bumper and see how much the front bumper is gonna bring down the front. And if it brings it down too much, then we're gonna have to put about 1/4 inch spacers on top of the Fox coilovers just to bring it back to where it is right now, and keep it level, because 2 inches, I thought that's a lot, but it turned out I needed more. I needed 2.5 inches of lift to get the ride height that I wanted, but it is what it is. I mean, it's not a big deal. But once the bumper is on, we're gonna test out, see how much it drops it, and then adjust the rear height control in the rear to bring it up to where it's supposed to be at. Now, we put the Fox shocks in the rear too, so I don't know if you can see them from here. I don't know if you can see the Fox shocks in the rear. We got those on, and next video we're going to be changing out these trailing arms, so keep on the lookout for that video. And that should complete our suspension. But yeah, I'm so happy. It rides so much better. Now the Fox, since they're high performance shocks, they ride a little rough, but it's still way better than the OEM ones because they are worn out. So it handles better now, it drives better. I'm completely happy with, you know, the rod quality and the way everything is performing. We still need to get on alignment, but we won't get the alignment until we put the rear trailing arms. Once that's done, then everything should be done as far as suspension wise. We don't have to do anything else to the suspension, and then we can move to the armor and get the bumpers on, hopefully a roof rack and stuff like that. So once we match the rear with the front ride height, I think it'll look so much better. And then plus, if in the future I get wheels and tires again, that will definitely change the look of the truck. But I love these wheels, I love the color of them, and they just look amazing with the truck, especially all the theme. Man, I envisioned this and it came to reality with hard work, and I'm just absolutely happy with the way it turned out. It's exactly how I pictured it in my head of how the truck is gonna turn out and how it's gonna look. So I'm very, very happy with the way it looks. As you can see, before we had a bunch of negative camber. Once we put the Fox shocks on, it took all that camber out. We still need to align it and fine tune it. Once everything is buttoned up, all the suspension is done. So yeah, we are nowhere near done on the build, but we are making big strides, and I cannot wait to finish up all the suspension and get into the armor. So if you like this video, go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you on next video.